Hello, you join me today in northern Spain where I'm riding the Pyrenees Mountains. My plan is to ride from the Mediterranean coast all the way across to Finisterre on the Atlantic coast and just explore as much of the Pyrenees and the Picos Mountains as I can. I've got several weeks here to do that. And I'm already about 4 weeks into my trip. I'm riding solo, and that's really what I want to talk about today because I absolutely love solo motorcycle touring. So I want to talk about what I consider to be some of the benefits of solo touring. Now, I'll start off by saying that I have absolutely nothing against group touring, and in fact I do quite a bit of that. So I do both. I do both solo touring and group touring, and I enjoy both. I will admit there are many advantages to group touring, very much depending upon your disposition. And so, I think of a lot of people I know, and I think they would be very unhappy solo touring. They would only be happy in a group. Because one of the obvious advantages of group touring is the companionship. That's, someone else to share the experiences of the trip with. And that is very important for a lot of people. They need to be able to really enjoy the experience. They need somebody there, to share it with. I think that companionship can be a big issue. And it's not just that sort of sharing the experience, but it's having somebody else there in certain situations. For example, so if you stop and you go into a cafe, you've got somewhere there to chat with, talk about what you've been doing, discuss what you've seen, etc. And in the evening, if you go out to a restaurant, it can be quite difficult for some people if you're on your own, sitting at a table on your own when you're surrounded by couples and families dining. It can feel a little socially awkward, although I have to say I do so much of that these days that I don't feel awkward with it anymore. For me, I also find that there's a very different pace between solo riding and group riding. And when you're in a group, you sort of it settles into a sort of certain pace which may be good or may be bad. You may like that pace or you might find it frustrating depending upon your attitude. What I mean is, for example, is that if I'm riding solo as I am now and I stop for fuel, it'll take 10 minutes. I pull up, fill up the bike, I go in and pay, maybe pop to the toilet, buy a quick drink, and I'm away. Whereas when you're riding with a group, you just know it's going to be at least 20 minutes. Somebody's going to, want to have a cigarette, and somebody else is rummaging for something else in the bag, and, what have you. And, it just takes so much longer. Also, if you stop to take a photograph, I've got my camera in my jacket pocket here. So if I want to take a photograph, I just pull over to the side of the road, reach into my pocket, take the picture, put the camera back in my pocket, and I'm away. It takes maybe 30 seconds. Whereas, again, if you're with a group, it can take so much longer to pull over, and, it just goes on. So you might like that, or you might find it frustrating, but there's definitely a different rhythm and pace to group riding, just because of group dynamics. As far as I'm concerned, the biggest advantage of group riding, and I do group riding. In fact, after this trip, I'm going back to the UK to join some friends for a group ride, and that is sharing the planning. Big advantage. You've got other people's ideas and inputs into what you're doing, and I find if I ride with a group, I end up doing things that I wouldn't have done on my own. I end up visiting places that I maybe would not have thought to visit or not bothered to visit on my own, and that's nice. I do like that, having that sort of input from lots of people. And also another thing which I sometimes do in a group is I tend to take the back seat. Because, I ride solo a lot where you're responsible for all the planning, and also because I used to lead groups, guide groups where you're responsible for everything. Sometimes it's nice just to take a back seat. So when I'm riding with friends, I let them do the leading, let them do the planning, and I can just kick back, and I do enjoy that sometimes. But there are definite disadvantages to group riding. One of them is pace. We all ride at different speeds. And I don't just mean how fast you ride on the road, but just how often you want to stop and things like that. And you find if there's a group, there's sometimes you got someone who's trying to ride like Rossi, and they're just off at high speed all the time. That can be quite stressful if you're trying to stay together as a group. You're trying to keep up with them. You may be pushing yourself, riding faster than you want to, or constantly having to overtake, etc. That can be tiring and stressful. And of course, the other side of the coin is you might get somebody in the group who rides like a snail. So everybody's wanting to get on a bit, get a few more miles under the belt, and somebody's holding you up. And that can be a major disadvantage, that kind of dynamic in group rides. And also another problem sometimes is different ideas about what people want to do. That could be in terms of what people are interested in, what they want to see, but also just in how you go about doing the ride. So I remember once going on a ride in France with some friends, and one of the lads wanted to stop every day for a nice lunch in a restaurant, whereas some of the other lads weren't bothered. They would either just skip lunch or just grab a quick snack in a garage or something like that. And that did cause quite a lot of tension in the group in terms of that kind of difference in what people wanted out of the trip, how they wanted to do the trip. And generally speaking, another problem that you might have in group is if you go off for a week or 2 weeks together, you can be very good friends, but when good friends are rubbing up against each other so closely every day for such an extended period of time, it's very easy for the to develop friction and for people to fall out, which can end up souring good relationships. But that doesn't always happen. So why do I love solo touring then? Well, the number one thing is that there's simply no one else to please. You're just pleasing yourself, so you set your own schedule. I leave when I want to. I stop when I want to, and I go where I want to. When I'm riding solo, I rarely plan, and I like to be totally flexible. I always camp when I'm riding solo, so I never have to book ahead. And I just start looking for somewhere, mid-afternoon when I feel like I've ridden enough. But some days, if I'm really enjoying the riding, I'll ride through till 8 o'clock at night or later even if, got a lot of daylight. And other days, I might just decide I've had enough by lunchtime and stop at lunchtime. Likewise, in the morning, sometimes I'm up nearly off if I feel like it. Other days, I just make myself a big pot of coffee and sit and read until 10 o'clock. And just take it relaxing in the morning, and there's nobody to disagree with me on that. And I frequently change my plans of where I'm going to go and how far I'm going to ride and what have you, and it doesn't really matter. Now, for many people, the big issue with solo touring is loneliness, but that is just never a problem for me. I don't even know the meaning of loneliness, and that's just by disposition. But I would say that it's important to draw a distinction between solitude and loneliness. Solitude I see as being a very positive thing, whereas loneliness definitely is a negative thing, and it can be very bad for you. It can be very bad for both your physical and your mental health if you are lonely. But solitude is very positive, and indeed many great philosophers and great people achieved their greatness through solitude. Just have to think of some very notable examples, such as Jesus spending his 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. Likewise, the Buddha. Moses went off on his own up the mountain. There's many examples of great thinkers, great people who had this period of very positive period of solitude. And of course many great philosophers have advocated the benefits of solitude. People like Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, very famous, Albert Camus, Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche talked a lot, one of my favourite philosophers, talked a lot about the positive value of solitude. Marcus Aurelius, famous Roman thinker, and then French philosopher, Blaise Pascal. Thomas Merton, the American monk and writer. Many people have advocated the positive values of solitude, which I may be go into more detail later. But anyway, I see solitude as being very valuable thinking time, and solitude combined with travelling just works well for me. Another big positive is I find that when I'm travelling on my own, I meet more people and I interact with more people. It just seems that you're more approachable if you're travelling on your own. If you're in a group, you seem to create this kind of bubble around the group, which protects you from other people. Whereas if you're a solo rider, people come up and talk to me all the time. Where am I from? Where am I going? Asking me about my bike. And I just get to speak to more strangers, which I really like, particularly when I'm travelling in Europe, because I like the opportunity to try out my language skills. I'm in Spain at the moment and I speak Spanish. Not brilliant Spanish, I have to say, but I speak Spanish. And so it's nice interacting with people in Spanish. I've just spent a couple of weeks in France, and again, I've enjoyed exercising my French. I'm camping. Every campsite you arrive at anywhere in Europe, there's always Dutch people there in caravans and motorhomes, so I get to exercise a little bit of Dutch, and I love that interacting with people. People from different cultures. It's always interesting talking to other people. But the biggest issue for me probably is simply that I like to travel for very long periods. I can travel longer if I'm on my own. I don't work. I've got plenty of time. I can spend the whole summer on the road, whereas most of my friends work or they have family commitments or both, of course, and so they can only get 1 week or 2 weeks holiday. So it's just not possible for me to travel for such long extended periods of time with other people. If I want to spend so much time on the road, I have to travel on my own. But that's fine, because I really enjoy it. And so when my friends have time, I travel with them. When they don't, I travel on my own. So just a few thoughts on the merits of solo travel there, although I'm saying that I do equally enjoy group travel. Okay, thanks for joining me for this ride. It's really beautiful scenery here, isn't it? I'm really enjoying this scenery and the weather. I've just had a couple of rather wet weeks in France, so it's nice having some lovely weather here in Spain. Ride safe, hopefully see you again soon. Bye.